Let's do it.
Oh, hello again, you extraordinary subscribers. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hemingway Land YouTube channel. Popping in this week, guys, as I promised I would do last week, to answer any of the questions that we received on our new program here at Hemingway Land, where we are offering owner financing, seller financing, tomato, same diff, on all, not just some, all of the properties that we have for sale on the website. I introduced this last week in one of my usual pithy 20-minute videos. And so if there was anything that I missed, if there were any questions I didn't think to answer last week, I told you guys I would come back and do it here, and that's what I'm doing this week. So we got a bunch of good questions, some by email, some in phone calls, and some in the comment section here on the YouTube. So I figured I'd start off with these. Specifically, our buddy Matthias. Let me tell you about this guy. Matthias is one of the Hemingway Land All-Stars. He's bought a bunch of properties from us over the years. And I don't know, what was it, 10 seconds after midnight, something like that? He somehow watched the video faster than anyone else. 2x, 3x speed, I presume. I don't know. And then pooped out a bunch of really good questions. So I figure we'll start with those, though not necessarily in the order he submitted them. Here we go, guys. Starting off, number one. Will there be any penalties to paying the loan off early? No, there will not. We have never done that with our land contracts. I do not intend to do that with these loans. We have always boasted on the website that our contracts feature only prepayment incentives and no prepayment penalties. Of course, we've always done the land contracts as 90 days, same as cash, things like that. If paid by this day, only this amount owed. Obviously, when there's an interest rate built into the thing, the faster you pay it off, the less that you will have to pay over time. But there are people who do tend to sneak prepayment penalty clauses into these contracts. Point being, our contracts will not include that. I see no reason to penalize people who want to pay me a lump sum of money faster than they are contractually obligated to do so. So to answer Matthias' question, no, that will not be in there. That was number one. Number two, somebody asked, what is the difference between whether we get a mortgage or a deed of trust on the property? So mortgage versus deed of trust depends on the state. Our 50 states here in America tend to break down into one of two categories, judicial foreclosure states and non-judicial foreclosure states. And how the loan is originated depends on what kind of state you're in. And obviously then there's a lot of state-specific language or statutes that have to be factored into those agreements. But in a state like New Mexico, which is a judicial foreclosure state, you're going to get a mortgage. And in a state like Colorado, which is a non-judicial foreclosure state, it would be a deed of trust is how that would be set up. And if anybody wants to ask the question, hey, can I do vice versa? Can I do it this way in that state and that way in this state? No, that's going to be pretty concrete. It's probably something that realistically could be done, but as far as all the advice that I've gotten over the last 6 months about how best to, we'll say, originate one of these loans, I'm going to be abiding by that structure. So judicial foreclosure states that we list in are like New Mexico and Hawaii, but of course, because everything in Hawaii is more complicated than the other 49 states. Hawaii can go either way. I think it just depends on the property and other factors I won't bore you with. And the rest of the states, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, those are all non-judicial foreclosure states. And I believe, I want to say Washington, Montana, Idaho, and Utah as well. Anyway, I could be wrong on those last four, but you get the point. Next up, guys. Will you supply an example or draft of these various loan contracts so as not to surprise anyone? So as people can't hit me with what I said in last week's video, the whole, I didn't know that would be in the contract. Matthias, as noted, asked a lot of good questions. Yes, that will certainly be the case. As I just laid out, yes is the short answer. The longer answer is, until I see enough of these, I will not have enough examples to present to people. So what's going to happen initially is anybody who initiates one of these transactions is going to be provided a sample, we'll say New Mexico documents, because those are the only sort of generic ones I've had created. A mortgage promissory note and truth in lending disclosure. And the purpose of supplying these documents to you guys is not necessarily going to be the particulars of the agreements, but the substance, the general sort of, are you comfortable with this amount of legalese? Is this something you feel comfortable signing on your own? If not, the good news is you're getting this on day one of roughly a 30-plus day process. You will have time to either consult a realtor friend that you have or hire an attorney to show up at close of escrow, etc., who can perhaps advise you better. Here's the thing that I should say. In that 30-day process, the loan company, much like the title company, I'm sure does not trip over themselves to keep in contact with you. We will. Our transaction coordinator will brief you on what's going on, which realistically for the first 2/3 of that process is not a whole lot. But it's usually within the last couple days that these documents get written up, and then people say, here you go, sign this. And so as you are not caught off guard by, I look at it, I don't think it's too daunting, but if you do, we want to show you that on day 1 versus, say, day 28 of a 30-day process. So as you have time to either, bring somebody with you who could consult on these things, or at least maybe do some research in the meantime, or just figure out, am I comfortable signing these on my own? Next question, which no one specifically asked, but which I think is a decent follow-up to this question, which is, can the loan company advise me on any questions that I have with the language within the document? I'm sure they can answer questions. Can they advise you? Probably not. When you call people and you're like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, oh, I'm not an attorney. When people trip over themselves and tell you, like, I'm not an attorney. Any advice I give you, it's not legal. Okay, I got it. Calm down. Okay, can you talk to me about what this paragraph means, what this sentence means? My guess is you're going to be met with that at a loan servicing company. They're probably reluctant to advise you on anything. I'm sure they'll explain a handful of things, but my guess is they're going to defer, and recommend that if there's things you don't understand, you should have your own attorney. And then if you ask them, can you recommend an attorney? My guess is they would probably do that. They would say, well, we work with these guys, often enough that we could, we recommend them. That's a possibility. If you're going to ask Hemingway, can you recommend an attorney? I cannot, guys. And I say this not to be disagreeable, but we have like 1 or 2 attorneys in New Mexico who we work with, and in the interest of avoiding what we'll call conflict of interest and leaving myself vulnerable, I will probably tell the staff not to recommend anyone. But I'm sure a Google search will reveal to you the names of plenty of people who are willing to let you pay them to review these documents for them. Next question. Do I get my $500 deposit down payment back if, for any reason, the loan company denies the loan? So this is a good question because there's a fundamental misunderstanding here. The Hemingway land, as owner and seller of the property, is the only one that can approve or deny the loan. And as far as we are concerned, if you could place the 20% down payment, that's all that really matters. So the loan company will not have a say in rejecting or accepting a, quote, loan applicant. That's not what they do. What they do is they collect the money, they disperse the money for the life of the loan. They're in charge of quarterbacking that process. So aside from that and some of the initial documents that are drawn up, during the initial origination of the loan, no, they don't do much of that. Or to rephrase, they will do none of that with us. They do not approve, they do not deny, they do not reject. We do. And again, as long as you can do the 20% down payment, you're good. Next, Matthias asked, can you bundle multiple property purchases into one single loan, or is each purchase a separate loan? So separate, definitely, particularly if they're in different states. But realistically speaking, each property that we buy is its own sort of set of internal accounting nonsense. And usually these things we cannot intermingle them, we'll say. So if there are 5 properties being purchased, they're going to have to be originated as 5 separate loans. And my guess is that would work to your benefit in the long run. Anyway. Next, will financing be available for international buyers, even if they don't have any credit in the U.S.? So it's a very good question. The short answer is yes. We have sold a number of properties to international buyers. There are very few restrictions on non-Americans, quote, foreigners, buying land in the U.S. Unless you originate from some rogue state like North Korea or Myanmar or Iran, you will be able to purchase land here. How exactly does it work when you don't have a social security number or a tax ID number, particularly as the loan company tries to keep track of these things or report them to credit bureaus? That I'm not entirely certain about. I'm sure it's something I'll learn after I do 5 or 6 of these. But at this juncture, I would just say we're willing to sell to you, so it shouldn't be a problem. Next question. What if I want to run one of the smaller properties this way through a loan company as opposed to using a land contract? So this is a good question. And, we're perfectly fine with doing that. The thing of it is, guys, my experience and the reason that I will say segregate properties between 10,000 below and 10,000 up is that people who are buying in that 10,000 or under price range, in my experience and observation, don't know, don't care, don't want title insurance. And if they're buying a, whatever, $5,000 property, they certainly don't want to spend an extra $1,000 on title insurance. So there are additional costs, but we're certainly willing to accommodate it if you're willing to pay the expenses. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Those were some of the really good questions that we had this past week. I'm sure there will be more. Guys, again, feel free. Leave some comments down below. I will respond to them in another video. In the meantime, guys, we haven't done this in 2 weeks. Didn't have an opportunity last week, so we're going to jump to special thanks. Special thanks to all our valued customers. All right, people, starting off in Hawaii. Yes, guys, the Aloha State. I know many of you are thinking right now, oh my God, did Hemingway actually sell that property that's been on the website for like 3 years? Did that one finally sell? No, guys, no, not that one. A totally different property, which was not listed on the website, because I'll remind you guys, I cannot find a photographer who's worth a damn in the entire state. Whatever the case, sold a property out there to Rob and Jesselyn. It was in the Fern Forest Valley Acres Estate, something or other. I don't know, but it was a 3-acre property. We had it listed for a little over $50,000. And our buddy, we've mentioned him here on the channel before, Wade Wirtz, star realtor of the Hawaiian Islands, Wade Wirtz, sold this property, yet another one, chalked up for Wade. So special thanks to the buyers, special thanks to Wade. Heading back stateside now to New Mexico, starting off in Valencia County. Sold some land in Rio Grande Estates to Jeff, and sold some land in Rio del Oro to Hemingway Land All-Star, one of the new ones, guys, Usha, our buddy Usha, buying up a lot of property in Rio del Oro, so special thanks to them. Moving north now, guys, into Taos County, sold some land to Nathan, and sold that 1-acre property out there in Tres Piedras State. Guys, let me say this, okay? Video editor, drop the graphic. Here we go. We had that 1-acre property out there in Tres Piedras Estates for longer than I think we have ever had a 1-acre property listed. I don't know what the deal is, guys. Typically, we list those on a Friday. They sell on a Friday. If they sit around, they're gone by Monday. Whatever the case, this one on the website, a lot of emails, a lot of calls. Are you going to offer owner financing on this property? And you would think, guys, after finally offering owner financing on the property, that's what did it. That's what cost somebody to buy it. In fact, no, just worked out that way. Whatever the case, Aaron and Kyle bought the property for cash. So special thanks to Nathan. Special thanks to Aaron and Kyle. Now, guys, no new properties going live on the website this week. Will we have properties next week? No, guys, because past experience has taught me never to bother listing any properties on the 4th of July weekend, certainly not the 4th of July. So we will be back the week after that, and hopefully by that point, we'll be back to regular, reliable weekly listings. We'll see. As I yammer on now over the close of this video, we'll give you a sneak preview of some of the properties coming up in July. Some really good properties, guys. Really pretty pictures of some nice hunting properties that we've got coming up somewhere, someplace over the next few weeks. In addition, guys, bulk acquisition, more properties in Rio Grande Estates. We are almost out of inventory there in Valencia County. I think we've got like fewer than 20 properties left. We will have, coming up soon, I think it's 98 new listings out there in Rio Grande Estates. So all things to look forward to in the weeks ahead after the July 4th break. With all that said, everybody, have a great Independence Day. Have a great July 4th. 249 years, guys. Going, we'll say strong. Going strong here in America. And we'll see you back here on the 11th of July. Until such time, everybody, have a great couple weeks off. And we will see you back here in our next video.